If you went through the Intro to JS course, then you made a few simple buttons in the logic challenges Your First Button and Smarter Button. We also used a button in our Winston Storybook program. In case you've forgotten, let's refresh our memory on how to make a simple button. First, what are the bare minimum features of a button? Number 1 would be a shape on the canvas, typically a rectangle. Number 2, it must include a label or icon that describes what its purpose is. We can do that with text. Number 3, it must respond to the user clicking on it, but not elsewhere. We can achieve number 1 and 2 pretty easily, and I'll paste in the code that draws this button. It will also include a few red lines to help us visualize the boundaries. To achieve number 3, we need to define mouse clicked, so that it can get called whenever the user clicks the mouse on the canvas. What happened here? We forgot our equal sign. That's kind of obvious. So, inside of here, we need to check whether mouse X and mouse Y are within the boundaries of this button. And for this button above, it spans from X equals 100 to X equals 250, and from Y equals 100 to Y equals 150, which the red lines illustrate very nicely. Now we can add the logic inside mouse clicked, which checks for our mouse. So in here, I'll just add an if condition and check if mouse X is greater than the left side, or 100, and if mouse Y or mouse X is less than the right side, which is 250, and if mouse Y is greater than 100, the top, and if mouse Y is less than the bottom, which is 150. So if we click and our mouse is in this location, what do we want it to do? Well, we want to do something pretty simple right now. We'll just add println, which just prints a message on the canvas. And here I'll just say, you clicked me. There we go. So restart, click, it says you clicked me. And if I don't click it, it doesn't say that. And that's exactly what we expect a button to do. It definitely works, but it uses lots of code that looks pretty hard to edit. Like if I wanted to move this rectangle, the blue rectangle, to maybe 174 or whatever we want, the text doesn't move. I have to adjust the text then, and even this logic and mouse clicked needs to be adjusted because look, the left side of the rectangle is here, but if I still click in this area, it counts as a click. And I would have to edit this as well, and that does not sound very fun, especially if I have to make many different adjustments until it looks good. So there must be an easier way. This sounds like a good motivation to write a function that will take care of everything a button does, and use parameters to take care of what we want to change. So right here, I will, first we need to replace 174 with 100 again, and define a new function, draw a button. And the function, of course, will take some arguments, button X to control the X position, button Y for the Y position, button width for the width, and button height for the height. And enclose this code inside the brackets, and then indent. Now, of course, restarting will show that there's nothing there because all the code is inside this function, which we need to call right down here with some parameters, just like the originals, 100, 100, 150, and 50. However, I am not using the arguments I defined yet. We need to replace these hard-coded values right here with those parameters. Button X and button Y control the X and Y, the rectangle. Now we can do width and height. Width and button height. And there we go. Now we can align this text, but before we adjust these values, I need to add the text align command, which aligns the text accordingly. Normally it is aligned horizontally by left, but for the Y, I want to change that to, instead of like around the bottom, I want to change it to the top. And then I can adjust these values to button X, button X, plus 10, and for the Y I want it to be button Y plus button height divided by 4, so that whenever the height changes, the Y position of the text is usually centered. There we go. Looks pretty good. But, what about our mouse click logic here? If I was to change the position of the button like this, everything works fine except that, hold on, let me get rid of this red line stuff. It's not very useful right now. There we go. So if I was to change this position, the mouse clicking isn't moving either. It just sits where it was. And that's not good. We need to be able to figure out how to move these hard-coded values right here when the button moves too. So we'll need to add some new code and logic so that we can get that done. In the next video, we will solve this problem and use objects to store the info in each button. We will also add clicking for multiple buttons. So I'll see you then.